Hey there, folks. Welcome to Spectrum Pulse. We talk about music, movies, art, and culture, and it's Billboard Breakdown. So it's pretty rare that I get surprised by the Hot 100. I've been doing this for 3.5 years about, and I've got chart records that go back to the 2000s. I generally have an expectation of what will land in the Hot 100 and be successful, and I have long been conditioned by disappointment to not expect the best. But you know what? It seemed like this week we got a few welcome surprises that not only met my low expectations, but might have just actually exceeded them in a really exciting way. Now, that's not saying it's particularly a great week or that any of these new arrivals will last, but some of these, they are really encouraging. They could mean good things going forward. Of course, if you're looking for encouragement, the last place I would look is our top 10 right now, where for another week, God's Plan by Drake is squatting at number 1. And yes, while it was dethroned on the sales charts and airplay gains are slowing down, it's still getting the sort of obscene streaming and YouTube that I don't see being challenged. Now, that's not saying some aren't gonna try, and this takes us to our first new arrival and a big top 10 and debut, Psycho by Post Malone featuring Dolla. And this is big. It is tremendous on-demand streaming and sales, and really the only reason it didn't hit number 1 is because its YouTube is nowhere as big and it doesn't have airplay traction just yet. So it might become a 2-horse race quickly if its momentum actually sticks around. And again, it's not like Perfect by Ed Sheeran is going to make a credible play down at number 3. Sales, they might be good, and it's got good radio, but it's losing traction there and streaming stalled out long time ago. I would like to say that means Finesse by Bruno Mars and Cardi B could make a play, but despite ascending to the very top on radio, it had an absolutely awful week on streaming and sales. It's not really rising above number 4. Similar case for Havana by Camila Cabello featuring Young Thug down at number 5. If it wasn't for stable YouTube, it'd be losing in all categories even faster right now. Now at number 6, we've got Look Alive by Blac JB featuring Drake. And while it has a bit of radio traction, its real strength is on streaming. So we'll see if that'll be enough to hold up against more robust songs on multiple categories like Meant to Be by BB Rexa and Florida Georgia Line, which might be down on sales but has a real airplay push and might just gain more traction going forward at number 7. Yay. I mean, it held up its position over Rockstar by Post Malone featuring 21 Savage, which tumbled down to number 8 thanks to radio losses, but it did keep above Pray For Me by The Weeknd and Kendrick Lamar at number 9, which might be down on sales but is surging on the radio to hold its slot. It might stick around. Finally, we've got the second Black Panther song with All the Stars by SZA and Kendrick down to number 10, more off of sales losses and radio that it never quite has been able to match effectively, so I'm not sure if this will have the same traction. Now this takes us to our losers and dropouts, and we've got some big ones in the latter category. Sure, there are small potatoes like One Foot by Walk the Moon or Endgame by Taylor Swift, Future, and Ed Sheeran, and sadly, Let Me Go by Haley Steinfeld, Alesso, Florida Georgia Line, and Watt. But along with that, we also had I Get the Bag by Gucci Mane featuring Migos, or Too Good at Goodbyes by Sam Smith, or Gucci Gang by Lil Pump, and finally, Shape of You by Ed Sheeran, which has lasted in the top 25 for well over a year. Now, on the flip side, our losers, they don't seem nearly as interesting. Black Panther hype faded away with The Ways by Khalid and Sway Lee down to 90, and Paramedic by SOB and RBE down to 76, and When We by Tank lost its momentary boost back down to 91. Then there is River by Eminem featuring Ed Sheeran down to 46 as the video hype has faded, as well as Love Lies by Khalid and Normani just not sticking well off the debut to 58. But hey, at least Tell Me You Love Me by Demi Lovato collapsed down to 84, and You Broke Up With Me by Walker Hayes finally took a hit to 74. And you know, about damn time too. And now for our gains and returning entries, things do seem a lot more questionable. I don't know why anybody wanted Dark Knight Dummo by Trippie Redd and Travis Scott to come back at 82, but I'm inclined to think it might be linked to the whole 6ix9ine backlash, even as he got his song Cuda back on the charts at 89. And of course, off the release of his mixtape, he got a boost for Kiki with Fetty Wap and a Boogie with the Hoodie Up. But beyond that, he's not really the most interesting story here, even as he did land a few singles and new arrivals, and yes, we will be getting to those. I mean, I'm more interested in Dua Lipa getting I Don't Give a Fuck up to 78, or how Nowadays by Lil Skies and Landon Q picked up some traction to 62, both thanks to streaming. Then we have the continued gains for Whatever It Takes by Imagine Dragons up to 43. Folks, given this radio and sales, you might as well get used to this one, it's gonna be around. And much to my amazement, Candy Paint by Post Malone got a boost up to 71. I mean, I don't expect it to truly get any sort of upward momentum this late in the run, but I'll take it over any other Post Malone song he's charted. It's actually a really good song. I still like it. And now the rest of our gains, they really aren't worth mentioning. Yeah, Rubbing Off the Paint by YBN Namir is up to 85 after it came back last week. Heaven by Kane Brown is riding sales in country radio to 44. And Plug Walk by Rich the Kid is up to 55 on streaming because apparently somebody is deluded into thinking that this song is remotely interesting or good. Ugh, whatever. Let's move on to our new arrivals, and things are immediately a lot more compelling when we start off with number 99, Make Me Feel by Janelle Monae.
That's just the way you make me feel. That's just the way so good, so good, so fucking real. That's just the way you make me feel. That's just the way you make me feel. That's just the way you make me feel.
Look, I know it was 5 years ago when I first reviewed The Electric Lady. Spoilers, it's only gotten better with every single listen. And yes, I know I was kind of lukewarm at best about Yoga when it dropped a few years later. But goddamn, it's so thrilling to see when Janelle Monae rolls out new singles, they at least have a chance to hit the Hot 100 proper. And considering this is a rubbery, bass-heavy jam celebrating bisexuality with choppy guitar work and synths contributed by the late Prince himself, I'm still a little bit amazed this crossed over at all. Of course, it helps that Janelle Monae is such a natural fit for this sort of future funk bombast, enough so you almost don't notice that Julia Michaels of all people contributed backing vocals. But really, she's such a non-presence that it's much easier to just bask in Janelle Monae's radiant, raw charisma. Maybe not quite as potent as Prince's on Kiss, the obvious sonic lineage point, but yeah, this is fun as hell, and I really hope this actually sticks around. It's a great song, definitely check it out. I want to see this get big. Next up, number 98, Breakup in the End by Cole Swindell.
Oh, I still make it with you over and over, again and again, even though we break up in the end.
You know, even 2 years after his sophomore album, You Should Be Here, indicated that he was making a pivot away from bro country towards more of the neo-traditional scene, I was still very skeptical Cole Swindell would continue down this path, especially when Nashville continues to prop up interchangeable male acts in that vein. And people tend to forget that at bro country's peak, Cole Swindell, he was one of those guys. That debut album is still really bad. But with this, yeah, folks, looks like Cole Swindell is joining Thomas Rhett and those artists making face turns in the best way possible, because this is a really damn great country song, accenting the faint acoustics with deeper piano, echoing electric tones with phenomenal melodic balance. This really sounds like a great tune, and the content, it's even better, showing every moment of the doomed relationship which he knows will eventually end, but one where love will push you on regardless. And there's a quiet, understated sincerity that gives the moment where Cole Swindell lets her come in post-breakup, gives us some real melancholy, because even if he's still might kind of holding a candle for her, it ultimately won't work out, and he knows it. It's a sort of composition that really knows how to underplay the subtext really effectively against the brittle, fragmented production, and one that really feels something special, especially with as good as the hook is. Yeah, this song, absolutely excellent. You're gonna want to hear it. Good job, Cole Swindell. You'll want to check this out. Number 96, She's With Me by High Valley.
Crazy, she happened to me. She calls me baby, hard to believe that she's with me.
So this song was made in 2014, and I thought it was weird when High Valley included this track on their breakthrough album back in late 2016, and the fact that it's now charting now kind of blows my mind. But if you remember when I covered Dear Life back in 2016, I thought that album was pretty great, and while this would definitely not be my first pick from that project, you got Make You Mine, Roads We've Never Taken, the title track, maybe even Soldier and I'll Be You Be, but you know what, it's still a fun cut. Reminiscent of a Florida Georgia Line song done right, with the roiling, guitar-driven grooves, the prominent banjo, the tight vocal harmonies, and lyrics that are kind of simple and doofy, but in a charming way. I do think the heavy usage of hand claps hasn't aged nearly as well in 2018 as it even did in 2016 or 2014, and I can't help but feel that it's a tad too synthetic around the edges in the production. But at the end of the day, High Valley songs, they just hit my joy receptors in a way that I can't quite explain, and I enjoyed the hell out of this song. It's not for everybody, but you know what? Definitely worth a listen. Check this out. Number 81, Booty by Blac Youngsta.
I throw a little money to twerk. I don't really think you can twerk. Twerk. If
If you broke, go to work. Make that big booty work. Make that big booty work. Can I touch that booty? That booty. That big old booty. Shake that booty. Can I lay on them booty? Mike Tyson on them booty. Copyright that booty.
Another day, another interchangeable trap song. This guy from an MC affiliated with Yo Gotti of all people, and who got arrested last year in connection with a shooting at Young Dolph. Now, apparently that beef has been mostly settled, and we're now onto a song called Booty. And even by the low standards of ass anthems, this is pretty mediocre. Despite having a similar flow, Blac Youngsta is nowhere close to being as funny or interesting as Yo Gotti. Again, it's a low bar here. And with no significant melody and the faint synth whistle against the rumbling bass and trap beat, with the most interesting references is how he wants to go Mike Tyson on the booty, and how his girl loves him because she rubs his feet. Seriously. Beyond that, okay, look, we haven't had an outright ass anthem in a minute, but even with that, this is not really a good one. Honestly, I'd skip it. Next, number 73, Rondo by 6ix9ine featuring Tory Lanez and Young Thug. So 6ix9ine broke only 2 songs from his newest mixtape on the Hot 100, and while I get why Tory Lanez might hop on a track with this scum in the roll-up to his new album, who in Young Thug's management decided that this was a good next step for his career while Havana is still in the top 5? Now, granted, his pause to clear his throat was easily the most enjoyable part of this song, which barely runs 2 minutes and is more characterized by Tory Lanez's auto-tune crooning over a pretty underwhelming trap beat with some glossy synths that don't match with any of the content or much of the vocal production. But as for the content, look, the big problem with 6ix9ine is that he's just not an interesting enough lyricist to back up his intensity, or to make any of it likable or appealing in comparison to an act like, say, Lil Jon. And so when you can tell that Young Thug doesn't really care to try on this song either, the entire collaboration feels really disposable. Like 6ix9ine will be shortly, given that the backlash isn't going away. Good thing too. Next, number 61, Want You Back by 5 Seconds of Summer.
No matter how long you're gone, I'm always gonna want you back. I know, you know, I'll never get over you. No matter where I go, I'm always gonna want you back, want you back.
Okay, believe it or not, I actually had some hope for this song. It might be easy to rep on 5 Seconds of Summer for their brand of pop punk that feels about 15 years out of date, but I heard some real improvements from them on their sophomore album, and Jet Black Heart is a legitimately great song and showed real potential from them. I'm serious about that. I go back to that song to this day. And hell, with the growing underground swell of pop punk, this could have been a great return to form, and yet instead, despite not being signed to Fueled by Ramen, they hopped in the slick, desaturated pop rock grooves that are more rooted in synth gloss and bass lines that just aren't tight enough in order to stick the landing, and they've been lodged in backlash territory with these sounds for the past year at least. Pair with the sort of falsetto that puts me a lot more in the mind of the much better Haim song of the same name, and I'm left wondering why 5 Seconds of Summer delivered such a pale facsimile that feels so thin and flimsy, and its content and presentation is just so basic from them. Now, at the end of the day, it's still mostly passable. The groove is decent enough, and I didn't mind the hook, but man alive, what a disappointment. They are capable of so much better. Number 60, Billy by 6ix9ine.
Fuck up on my fucking face before I murder you. Bitch niggas always drinking blood, but I know they fool. Whole squad full of fucking killers, I'm a killer too. 7 shots, nigga. Everybody get pop, nigga. The big ol' run, nigga. We 7 shots, nigga.
Okay, we're now in the situation if the song only needs to have 1 verse and 2 choruses and run less than 2 minutes to chart on the Hot 100, can we just call out 6ix9ine for pure laziness at this point? Not only does all the flexing start to feel generic, shooting people, gang shoutouts that seem less and less credible, screwing a girl which he describes as dick up in the pussy, bet that shit get gushy. Okay, look, even by the standards of over-the-top masculine power fantasies intended for teenagers, who in the Nine Hells takes this seriously? Especially combined with the garish synth work and the utterly one-dimensional delivery. The only thing that's worth recommending is that delivery, but once you get past it, it's just like the rest of the monotonous trap I cover on a week-by-week basis, just blown up to a borderline parody of itself that is just so stupid I can't like it. Again, the second this guy's 15th minute comes, the better. Skip it. Number 22, 44 More by Logic.
Like Elijah, in the cut smoking no indica, might fuck around and compartment Elijah. They say life is a bitch, and if that is the case, then I'm finna surprise. And no, I am not an advisor, but I do advise you to pay attention. Never need to mention I'm that motherfucker busting heads. Finna push it to the ledge. Yeah, I've been smoking my meds. Ain't got no love for the feds.
So I'll admit to being genuinely curious where Logic was gonna take after the Suicide Hotline song with Alessia Cara and Khalid was such a huge hit. And yet I get the feeling that this song might not be the best representative of that direction, given that it's from his upcoming Bobby Tarantino 2 mixtape, the sequel that nobody asked for to a project that Logic pretty much phoned in 2 years ago. And considering that all we got here is 44 bars of a reversed warping mix and a twisty trap beat, well, I guess it's passable. But at this point, nobody can deny that Logic can flow his ass off. But I can't be the only one who isn't all that impressed by how much repetition and stuttering he brought into his bars as well, and that his content just isn't as memorable as I'd like it to be. Yeah, I didn't mind how he was bragging how he sold more than Katy Perry and Harry Styles, and the flip of how he's saving money for his kids to go to college is nice so he isn't one of those guys who don't, but at the same time, does that really redeem that ring 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 line later in the song in what seems like a really clumsy Kevin Durant reference? Overall, no, it's not bad, but I'm still not at all convinced Logic is living up to his potential, and a song like this, it only seems to prove it more. Again, kinda disappointing. And finally, number 2, Psycho by Post Malone featuring Ty Dolla $ign.
Bad like Michael, can't really trust nobody with all this jewelry on you. My roof look like a no-show, got diamonds by the bolo. Don't act like you my friend when I'm rolling through my hands.
Now granted, I'm fairly certain I take Logic's brand of flexing over whatever the hell Post Malone is doing. And can I ask, why is Ty Dolla $ign even here? He and Post Malone have a very similar sound. It's not like he's going to bring interesting content. Was his cosign really that big of a deal against these badly tuned, desaturated acoustic plucks against a blubbery trap knock? Granted, when Post Malone is complaining about not being able to shove all his money in his shorts, and that his neck and teeth are sore from all the chains and grills, and Ty Dolla $ign follows it up by talking about how he's sipping on the panky, chain so stanky, even as he takes your girl, I'm left thinking how neither of these guys gain much from the other than just a wallow in overdone luxury porn. Seriously, the APs that Post Malone references, they are expensive watches. So how in the nine hells anybody thinks they're going psycho makes any sense is beyond me. Although I will give the folks at Genius some credit for trying to tenuously stretch a connection between action points in the Fallout games instead of just acknowledging that Post Malone is an incoherent rapper who rarely, if ever, thinks through his bad metaphors. This song, I don't know if I would call it outright awful or the worst thing that Post Malone has ever done while I Fall Apart is still charting, but this song, no. Not good at all. And yet among the worst, yeah, both of them are going to 6ix9ine here, with Billy netting the worst of the week and the awful auto-tuned laziness on Rondo with Tory Lanez and Young Thug getting dishonorable mention. But the truth is that this week, beyond that, actually kinda decent, with the great songs definitely outweighing the worst of the bad, with best of the week for me going to Janelle Monae on Make Me Feel, love that funky groove, and honorable mention to Cole Swindell with Breakup in the End. Tight race there, but I think there's just a little bit more vivacious character that Janelle Monae brought to the table, and I really dug that. Now coming up next, well, unless all odds are defied and Tory Lanez gets an album bomb, it might end up being pretty light. Oh, wait. Meghan Trainor released a new song, so that'll probably show up. Okay, could get rough. Stay tuned. But until next time, I'm Mark. You're watching Billboard Breakdown on Spectrum Pulse, and I'll see you next time.